finding daily bias. This will be part 2 of what finding daily bias is and how do we do it using our strategy. I will say all my daily bias is posted in a Discord with the link below. So if you want to get a feel of how I find it, I post it every single trading day. I post, look, this is what I'm looking for in the market. If price hits this level, then I want to take it up. If price hits this level, then maybe we can start looking for some sells. I will be going through some examples today, but these examples are basically what I'll be posting in the Discord anyway. So just to reiterate what is on my chart and why my candles look like this, I do go through it every video, so it probably gets a bit boring if you keep watching them. However, beige indicates US sessions. Now, when I'm trading US session, I'm only looking for previous US session highs and lows to get trades from. The red candles you see on your screen are London and Asia session. I don't want anything to do with them while I'm trading US session. Therefore, I made them a completely different color. So that means I can find my zones like that. I can quickly find my zones. I can quickly find my entries, and then I can go from there. It just makes the whole process so much easier instead of going down a timeline. Right, US session opens here and it stops here, so I'm going to mark out this zone here. Well, it's not close enough to my current zone, so I have to find a different one. It just makes everything so much more simple. Again, the indicator is all in the Discord if you want to copy this, so by all means feel free to go and have a look at it. But let's say we're trading for the day. This is what we come to, and we've come to see the market. This is what it's given us. What would you be doing? What would we be doing as a team? I would mark the highs and lows of the previous US session simply because price is already at this point. So therefore we get the highs and lows. Understanding structure, if we break this low, we can understand, well, we're probably going to break to the downside. Therefore, I want to take sells if we break this level here and get a retest. We always wait for the retest when we are trading a break of a certain level. For example, let's say price dribbles down here, we get a break below, retest in, and we're going to maybe take it to another US low, which immediately we can identify because we have this indicator on. So knowing that, what else can we look for? Well, we can clearly say if price continues to break to the upside, we want to keep being in buys. Because why would you sell if price is still breaking to the upside? You just wouldn't. You know that, I know that. So therefore, we're simply going to take some buys. If we get a break above, a retest in, we want to take some buys up. Now, it could be that we're at an all-time high. If we're not, I will just go back and have a look at some previous zones. All it would be, go back, then click the 30-minute time frame. Then your different colors will appear, and then you can draw out different zones from there that you can potentially target. But as a conclusion for the day, this is what price has given us. And we can say that, look, if market opens near this price, these are the only sort of two zones that I need. Yes, if the market opens in US session all the way up here, we can still have this zone, but it would be worth going back in the chart. If there is a previous zone, then we can draw it out and potentially get an entry from there as well. But half the time, price will open near some previous US zones that we've marked out before. In this example, it was literally the yesterday's session. So now that we know this, it would be a case of getting an entry. So we know if we break below, we're going sells, and if we break above, we're going for buys. And again, it's that mentality that you have to adopt. If price does this, I want to do that. However, if price wants to do this, I will do that. In this case, if price breaks below, I want to buy. I want to get into sells. If price breaks above, I will get into buys. Now, for the sake of finding more examples, I'm just going to play price on here. You can see price breaks above, we get a tap in, and we continue to the upside. So let's go into another example. So now that we have another example on our screens, what are we going to look for? If you watched the previous video and you sort of grabbed the idea for it, you can probably already see what zones we are going to highlight. So we have this US low right here. Now you can already imagine that if we break this price below here, get a retest in, then we're quite clearly going to push further to the downside. If we break the structure to the upside, for example, from this US session zone here, then we can potentially see some buys. And it is as simple as that. Please do not start making it complicated. For example, let's go to this zone right here. Let's say, okay, we're looking at this, what do we see? Well, we can clearly see if we get a clear break above, we're going to take it higher. But as you've just seen before there, if we do get a break below and you're constantly waiting for these reactions, if this happens, you are going to do X. So therefore, if you play price along here, we're going to wait for US session, wait for price to break below, get a tap back in, and then we take price further to the downside. You wouldn't be trading in the zone because price is too close to this low zone where we could actually break the structure to the downside and then start getting further sell-offs. Again, if price were to break all the way above, you would have broken structure to the upside. Therefore, you'd wait for price to come back down, give you that retest in, and then you can wait for that 5-minute engulfing candle to take price all the way to the upside. And it's as simple as that. Getting the daily bias is simply just waiting to see what price does. You grab your zones for the day and you just see what price does. And we can go back and we can find other examples. For example, let me just close the chart a little bit just so we both don't know where we're going to end up. So if I open it here and we're going to try find some daily bias for the day. So let's say we're going to be trading in we're going to wait for this session to play out, London session to play out, and then we're going to find some zones. So let's play price on a little bit here, and we can afford to go a little bit further. So you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, what structure would we get? Now, because I've done this so many times, it just becomes second nature. And if you start practicing this, again, it's going to become second nature for you guys as well. So you mark the highs and lows, not always the previous session, but it does come up a lot that the previous session is the main session that you actually use to get trades off. So we have the highs and lows, and I don't even need to explain to you guys anymore what we're going to be expecting to look for from these highs and lows. It's going to start become second nature. Again, if we see price break above here, we want to see it go further. If we get some valid reactions, we want to see a tap back in and to take price to this level here. Now, this is where you would understand, is taking the trade worth it? Because we have this US session zone right here. Yes, it's not drawn out very accurately because we've still got this little wick here. However, would it be worth it to take the trade if you got a retest in and an engulfing here? No, it wouldn't. Because your take profit would have to be this one, just in case price reversed. You'd have to have a break-even target, or you just have to decrease your risk when you're getting into a trade. You would say, okay, look, it's going to be better if I can get a trade from the bottom of the zone and take it lower. That is what you need to understand. That sometimes, although you might get a perfect entry, the trade just is not worth taking. So understanding this, let's now jump to the 5-minute time frame, because we've got everything we need in terms of directional bias, what we are looking for and what we are waiting for. So we only want to take buys if we break above. We're only going to take sells if we break below. Now I will just remove these arrows, but we have the consensus of what we want to do for the day. So following this plan, this is what we're going to be looking out for. We jump back to the 30-minute hit just so we know our zones. So selling from this zone, selling, buying if we break above and get a tap in. But I'm only interested in sells if we get a break below here, a tap back in, and then we can potentially come down. But ideally, like I was saying before, we want a break below this level before we get into any actual sells. So let us go back into the 5-minute and play price on. Let's just see what price wants to do. So we push up, and then we start coming down. So we get a tap in right here. What time are we on? 5:30. So you're pushing it for time really. And then price just fizzles out for the rest of the day. So you wouldn't have been in a trade. But if I give you this to look at, is this something you want to trade anyway? Realistically, absolutely not. So it's imperative that you have this sort of plan so you can avoid trading days like this, because nobody wants to get caught out in a trade like that. So make sure you have these levels of structure that you can get a break above, tap back in, push further up, break below, tap back in, push further down. Understand that if another US session zone is close enough to it, that it might not be even worth taking the trade until we get a break below the actual previous US session that we would have had on the 30th of September. So just make sure you get these valid tap-ins and make sure you have the structure point in your mind. Like I say, I always post this in the Discord. So if you want a better feel for how I get this structure, how you're going to avoid getting into trades like this simply by just having a plan, then I post it in the Discord. If you want to see it daily, every trading day, I do post my analysis. So that is literally all I can give you in terms of, look, this is how you find a daily bias. I will do maybe even a 3-part series to this, just in case you guys want a little more understanding of how to do it. But the more you see it and the more you try to do it for yourself and try match it up with my analysis, then the more you're going to get an understanding of how you actually find daily bias.